For about 10 years, Sabrina Carpenter has been building a music career that's finally taking off. Carpenter's journey as a musician, much like Chappell Roan's, which I covered earlier this month, is one with many ups and downs. In this video, we're going to briefly recap her journey from project to project leading up to her current smash hit Espresso, and her follow-up soon-to-be smash Please Please Please, both leading into Short and Sweet, her sixth record, in an era that I think will cement her as one of the decade's main pop girls. I want to preface this saying Carpenter's journey is very much one about timing, having the right support from labels, and persistently trying. I really respect her hustle and grit as an artist very much, and believe her success is well earned. I definitely came on board late, but she's undeniably one of this year's biggest successes and a big contender for Best New Artist at the Grammys. Early Disney Channel days. Sabrina Carpenter got her start as a Disney Channel starlet after a few roles on TV. Most notably, her role as Maya, the lead best friend in Girl Meets World, a reboot of the hit 90s sitcom Boy Meets World. She and star Rowan Blanchard actually recorded the theme song to the series. Carpenter would shortly after begin releasing her own music, scoring a 5-album deal with Disney's Hollywood Records, something that actually came to haunt her later on. Her first ever single was co-written by then hitmaker Meghan Trainor, Can't Blame a Girl for Trying. This song was a breezy, folksy pop song that Carpenter did not write herself, but did a solid job embodying the free teenage spirit of the track. This song would anchor an EP with the same title. Dropped in April 2014, this EP was actually fascinating in hindsight. It's a very acoustic record that many compared to her eventual mentor Taylor Swift's earlier works. What it was lacking was Sabrina's lyrical input. This record was more or less a by-the-numbers, by-committee record. My personal favorite track upon listening was The Middle of Starting Over. This one is the most Swiftian of the bunch, and likely the one that Carpenter really resonated with based on her vocal performance. Carpenter released We'll Be Stars, the proper lead to her debut album Eyes Wide Open in 2015. This track marked a beginning of her leaning towards a more pop direction. It's still pretty boilerplate Disney Channel star music and lacks her writing input, but it did its job. The record itself contains that EP and a couple of other tracks. Carpenter actually got to co-write 4 of these songs. Reviews were pretty positive, yet it felt overproduced and did not actually reflect Carpenter's talent or potential at the time. Eyes Wide Open came out during a time where pop was really at its peak, which brings us to evolution and establishing her genre. 2016 was a pivotal year for Carpenter. Girl Meets World was approaching its inevitable end, so the pressure to capitalize and shift her career was on. She released the original lead single to her sophomore record, Smoke and Fire, a synth-pop track that really marked a pivot in style for Carpenter. Smoke and Fire was co-written and produced by Ido Smishlani, who had actually worked with Shawn Mendes the year prior on his debut album. Smoke and Fire actually became a fan favorite that some were disappointed had been left off Evolution, her second record. Carpenter also remained tied to Disney Channel, having been one of the leads for a movie, Adventures in Babysitting, and voicing a character on Milo Murphy's Law. So here's the thing about being both an actress and a pop star. It's not feasible or easy. Finding time to film movies, TV, and output good music consistently is a big ask. Usually one overtakes the other, most infamously Hailee Steinfeld, whose first album we've been waiting on for nearly a decade. We'll get back to that later, and I will make a video about Hailee one day. Sabrina would formally launch Evolution with On Purpose, which definitely blended Carpenter's ballad skills with a more up-tempo dance vibe. Though it was really Thumbs, another single that really started to get her some buzz. Thumbs had been co-written and produced by one of the minds behind Ed Sheeran's smash hit That Was Everywhere, Shape of You. And even though it only peaked at the top of the bubbling underchart, it still went platinum and got her some late-night show exposure. Evolution released in the fall of 2016. It was a proper dance pop record with a few acoustic ballads and some R&B pop thrown in there. This album actually outcharted her debut, hitting 28 on the Billboard 200. Carpenter was actually credited on all tracks aside from Thumbs. This record is definitely slept on. The writing on it was pretty mature for a then Disney Channel star. Sure, there are some hit or miss moments, but Feels Like Loneliness and Runnin' High definitely would have made my rotations back in 2016. It's fascinating because this record came out at a time where dance pop and Disney Channel itself were starting to wane. Despite the quality of the work, she just was not getting the proper attention that she needed. Carpenter would proceed to go on her first headlining tour. 2017 brought the one-off single Why, which I'm shocked didn't smash considering how trendy it was with the synth chops at the time. She'd embark on a second tour, the D Tour, and even open for Ariana Grande in Brazil. It seemed like she was building proper momentum, though to be honest that was a big ask in a desolate time for pop music. A lot of people ask what sets Carpenter apart from her peers. In revisiting her discography, it's definitely her ability to storytell. Even early on, especially through Evolution, each track really does feel like a page to a journal with a specific font and delivery for each entry. Hollywood Records hell. One of the biggest obstacles for Sabrina had to be mismanagement from Hollywood Records. There's a reason both Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez departed the label as soon as they could to join RCA and Interscope respectively. Those labels allowed them to make proper and mature pop records with the resources of a serious music label. Hollywood Records was Disney's imprint, a training ground of sorts with their own rules about what singers can sing about. Carpenter found herself stuck in it because of that 5-album contract, which likely was put into place because of the success of Miley and Selena. 2018 brought Alien her first US Dance Club Songs chart topper, with Jonas Blue in a brief appearance in one of my favorite films, The Hate U Give, as Haley a Bully. It also gave us this clip.
Star, just pretend the ball is a piece of fried chicken.
At the end of the year, Carpenter released the first half of her Singular project. Originally meant to be one album, it was likely split in two to get Carpenter out of her contract earlier. Act 1 was a surprise for me when it came out. It was this true pop project that even had a Stargate production on it. It contained Sabrina's playful and witty lyrics with an empowerment slant. Almost Love, the opener and first single, is just euphoric fun with a bridge that really peels back the song before it roars back into place. Hold Tide feels like an early ancestor to her more modern works. It really did push the line of subtle sensuality with an R&B vibe, especially for a Disney Channel star. Sue Me gives us an autobiographical track about her conflict with previous management. But Diamonds Are Forever, the closer, really stuck with me. The Ariana comparisons that some fans felt were on this track, it really does feel like a Dangerous Woman B-side in the best way possible. Criminally, this only hit 103 on the Billboard charts. 2019 would see her tour the project and release the second act, which also didn't fare well despite great reviews. Act 2 was a more stripped-back project that leaned on Carpenter's songwriting skills and her love of R&B. This was definitely her most personal project at the time, talking about her anxiety and really ruminating on her inner world. Songs like Pushing 20 have some really cool trap sounds to it while still retaining Carpenter's humor. It's a really fun song about not dealing with other people wasting her time, a theme that she would continue on. In My Bed was the standout to me on my listen. This track's production and lyricism really captured the overbearing weight of thinking too much. Tell 'Em is another track that really got me thinking about Ariana Grande a little bit, but Exhale has to be the key highlight of the record and maybe the whole project. None of these tracks charted, likely due to Hollywood Records' mishandling and the general public's perception of Carpenter as a teen pop Disney act. I think Singular not doing well temporarily forced Sabrina and her team to prioritize her acting career. She would appear in Tall Girl and land the role of Katie Heron in the Broadway debut of the Mean Girls musical, which unfortunately shut down and never reopened. Quick side note, now that the movie's out on streaming, Carpenter really should have played the role of Katie in the film adaptation, but likely couldn't because she was busy being a singer. Carpenter's most recent role in a film was Maddie in a 2022 thriller Emergency, which actually premiered at Sundance. Which goes to show you gotta pick one or the other. Carpenter's bad luck streak would continue, but she still persisted and made moves that would set up her success. But first things first, she had to break up with that awful label and get some real traction. Breaking out of pop star jail. The first step of Carpenter actually becoming a proper pop star was leaving Hollywood Records to join Island Records under UMG at the start of 2021. At the time, Carpenter would draw the attention of the general public by way of Olivia Rodrigo's smash hit Driver's License. For those of you who don't know, everybody knows this. A quick recap. A now iconic Blonde Girl lyric caused people to speculate on a crazy love triangle between Joshua Bassett, Olivia Rodrigo, and Sabrina. Some at the time believed that it was actually a fabricated PR stunt, as Josh had a response song, Lie Lie Lie, ready to go the week after. His peaked at 25 on the bubbling under charts. Sabrina's first single, Under Island, on the other hand, Skin, dropped at the end of January. It was her first track to properly chart on the Hot 100 at 48. While Sabrina would deny that this was a diss track, it definitely felt like a response, calling out the blonde lyric and had that shady "don't drive yourself insane" line. In retrospect, it actually really was more of a self-empowerment anthem. Sabrina would actually perform this track at the 32nd GLAAD Awards as a lovely tribute to the trans youth community. September was a big time for Carpenter, who featured in the third Savage X Fenty show. She also dropped the underrated lead single to Emails I Can't Send, Skinny Dipping, which was memed for its chatty opening verse. This track was co-written by Julia Michaels, who'd co-write much of that album with Carpenter, and get into a Twitter beef over that. Carpenter ultimately seized the record by revealing many of the songs were based off emails that she wrote to herself. The follow-up single to that, Fast Times, is another underrated song. Fast Times had this really badass music video that was Kill Bill, Charlie's Angels themed. Sadly, neither of these tracks impacted the charts the way that Skin did, but it did help her accumulate a fan base of loyal Carpenters. Sabrina actually would assemble a pretty strong team of writers and producers like Amy Allen, Skylar Stonestreet, One Direction producers and writers John Ryan and Julian Bunetta. The latter two would actually help her formulate her eventual hits, Feather and Espresso. Together, they would finalize Emails I Can't Send, her fifth studio album. The last single before the album launch was Vicious, which dropped in July 2022. Now it's time to briefly talk about Emails I Can't Send. Emails I Can't Send was released to positive reviews and debuted at 23 on the Billboard 200 with 18,000 units sold, a vast improvement over Singular Act 1 and 2. Many critics praised it for being a distinct pop record that accomplishes its mission pretty well, though some criticism was leveled against its production choices. It was released alongside a proper video for Because I Liked a Boy, which I thought would have been a perfect kind of song to have released in Skin's place, though she did end up writing this later than that song. The chorus in particular is striking. The line, "I'm a rebound, getting around, stealing from the young," that was one of the sharpest lines that she's ever written. Rather than directly attacking anyone, she acknowledged the hate that she got from people who weren't even involved gracefully. Emails I Can't Send was deeply slept on by me myself in a very crowded 2022, but it is a highly recommended listen for me. It's an eclectic, well-written record filled with bops, grade A lyricism, and probably one of the better heartbreak records that I've heard this decade. Already Over is actually one of my favorite deep cuts. As a huge Casey Musgraves fan, seeing Carpenter effortlessly channel Golden Hour vibes in her own way. I really love country splash pop, and she really does take from the country genre, at least lyrically. Another deep cut that I thought had hit potential is Bet You Wanna. This one's a slinky track that reminded me of the iconic Love Fool in its delivery. It really is a great kiss-off anthem about not taking back an ex. The bridge is so fun and the production is so crisp and fizzy. It's a perfect summertime track. She could definitely get away with re-releasing it, though the obvious hit was Nonsense, which did eventually become a single. Nonsense went viral on TikTok due to Sabrina changing the outro each night on her tour for the record. It would peak at 56 on the Hot 100, which I thought was criminal. Nonsense drew many comparisons to Ariana Grande's recent style, a high compliment in my honest opinion. It even had a really cool, cute Christmas remix to help close out the year. Though 2023 was the year that really started to propel her from the lower tiers to the proper A-list. Enter the Eras Tour and further success. After some teasing, Carpenter would release a deluxe version of Emails I Can't Send in March of 2023. It included 4 new tracks including Feather. A major one came in June when Sabrina was announced to be Taylor Swift's opener for her Eras Tour shows in Australia, Latin America, and Singapore. Sabrina described it as a dream come true, and it generally brought her some much needed attention. Swift herself has a history of successful openers and proteges. Ed Sheeran was her opening act for the Red Tour, having featured on Everything Has Changed, and went on to become a pop heavyweight himself. When he was starting out, Shawn Mendes actually opened for Taylor Swift back during the 1989 World Tour and went on to have a pretty solid career. Swift acted like a fairy godmother for Camila Cabello, who went on to open for her during the Reputation Tour when she went solo. Amongst the amazing roster of openers, some of whom are actually industry veterans, Sabrina Carpenter emerged the breakout star. Towards the end of 2023, Carpenter would release a cover of I Knew You Were Trouble, which Swift herself endorsed. Sabrina would also properly release Feather as the final single of the Emails era. Feather went on to top the pop charts and peak at 21. The music video faced controversy due to Carpenter filming it in a Catholic church, though she would respond saying that she got permission and made an iconic comeback. Jesus was a Carpenter. Feather was one of the songs that really did get me on board, from a casual listener to someone who would go on to explore her back catalog. There's something so perfect about the visuals of the song's messaging and seeing it organically rise that really did make me enamored. Last year's Fruitcake EP was a remarkable Christmas record. It's now going to be part of my holiday spins. Buy Me Presents is an adorable little bop that's perfect for a rom-com, and Is It New Year's Yet captures the NEY of being single on Christmas when everyone else is taken. I strongly recommend this EP. I would not be surprised if it ends up becoming a hit down the line. Which brings us to 2024 and Short and Sweet. Fresh off of the momentum of 2023, Sabrina was announced to be one of Coachella's performers. Prior to her performance, Sabrina began teasing a new era with billboards, a now brewing page on her website. Espresso would be announced on April 8th alongside its cover art. She called it a little song before Coachella, and it's now her first top 10 hit. It peaked at number 4 at the time of this recording, it possibly even higher by the time I publish this. It is also the longest running number 1 song by a female artist this year on Spotify, running weeks at the top. Carpenter wrote the song in France. It's this lovely non-sequitur song that's self-confident and silly. The guitars are splashy. The synths create a fun, funky atmosphere. The lyrics themselves are what really made the song smash, in my opinion. That's Not Me Espresso really just rolls off the tongue and stays stuck in your head. The song's an ode to knowing that you got someone wrapped around your finger. The wordplay really does sell the song. Lyrics like switch it up like Nintendo in the chorus, or the way that she sings I'm working late cause I'm a singer. These are the hallmarks of her previous work and her long-standing humor, so I'm not surprised at this smash. The music video itself is the cherry on top of an ending that teased her latest single, Please Please Please. This track dropped shortly after she announced Short and Sweet, something that she actually had teased through a viral short video, and killer billboards with tweets about her height, 4'11" apparently. All of those teasers would culminate in that album announcement. The record is allegedly 36 minutes and 12 tracks long. Please 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 was released on June 7th. Produced by Jack Antonoff, this hybrid of disco sounds and country lyrics is already a smash hit. It is currently challenging for a number 1 debut and even elevated Espresso streams in the process. The track's a sassy yet sincere instruction to her boyfriend to not fumble it or wreck her reputation. Much like Espresso, there is a heap of quotable lines in there. Again, Carpenter's ability to tell a contained story in a short time is what makes her distinct. Each verse goes by so quickly, but you can glean who her boyfriend is from the hints from his profession to his culture. And yet she manages to stuff words like prolifically without it feeling awkward or clumsy. It's a very impressive talent. The music video is a direct sequel to Espresso, which ended with her arrest. Now she's out of jail and in love with a criminal played by her long-rumored boyfriend and fellow actor, Barry Keoghan. As it goes on, we see her frustration that he just can't seem to quit crime and always ends up in jail, with her bailing him out every single time. Ultimately, she decides to tie him up and ditch him, mouth tape and tied up. A twist considering how men usually end up in her music videos. Swiftie goggles on, she has to be on the Reputation Vault tracks because this getaway car homage and the emphasis on her reputation being damaged. I saw a few people on my timeline prematurely declare this a fumbled single, only for it to grow on them in a few days. There's just something about the way that she sings that couplet. Heartbreak is one thing, my ego's another. I beg you, don't embarrass me, motherfucker. That's a hitmaker right there. In fact, it's one of the few songs that actually managed to increase in streams as the week has gone on. Which brings us to the end of this recap. I'm so excited to cover her album when it comes out later this year. I feel like she has really earned this moment, and for some of the stands that cheekily say that this is her second record, do not diminish her previous work. This is her 6th record, she has earned it. Unlike some artists, she doesn't have to pretend that her next record is her debut record or anything. I think pop enthusiasts everywhere and just general fans are excited for Short and Sweet, as well as the accompanying tour, which is likely going to be a bloodbath to get into. The album is out on August 23rd, and I have to say it's really refreshing to see someone who's played the game slow and steady win. And that's a proper wrap. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I've been promising this for a long time. It's just been kind of crazy trying to sit down and get all of this recorded. I've been moving, like I just moved back to LA. So yeah, I'm definitely back. A quick shout out to my members. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. A quick shout out to my subscribers. Without you guys, I wouldn't even be here. So thank you guys for tuning in. Comment below what your favorite Sabrina era and project was. What do you think the record is going to sound like? Do you think it's just going to be cohesive? Do you think that it's going to be a Grammys contender? Sound off below. And see you next video.